It was a quiet afternoon, the kind that feels a little slower than usual. I had a book to return, another one to pick up, and no real reason to be in a hurry. So I went to the library just to do one simple errand. The building was calm inside. Soft footsteps. Low voices. A printer is humming somewhere behind a wall. A child turned pages near the window, and someone at a table was leaning over notes with a very serious face. Everything felt settled. I walked to the front desk with my books in my arms. The librarian smiled at me in that quiet library way, warm but gentle, as if even friendliness should not make too much noise. I smiled back and placed the books down. She scanned the first one, then the second. The machine made small, tidy sounds. Nothing dramatic. Nothing difficult. It was one of those simple little moments that barely feel like conversation at all, just a calm exchange. At the same time, my mind was elsewhere. Not far away, just slightly off. I was already thinking about what to do next, whether I should stop for coffee on the way home, whether I had enough milk, and whether the afternoon would stay this quiet. Then she handed one book back and said something polite. A very normal closing phrase. The kind people say at the end of small public interactions. And because my brain had clearly wandered into the wrong building entirely, I smiled and answered, "Enjoy your meal." The words came out softly, but clearly enough. And the moment they were in the air, I felt them there. Not wrong in a dramatic way. Just completely misplaced. Like I had opened the correct sentence in the wrong folder and sent it anyway. The librarian paused. Only for a second. Her hand still rested lightly on the desk. She looked at me, then at the books, then back at me again with a small expression that was almost a smile and almost a question. That was when I heard myself properly. Library. Books. Quiet desk. No food. No table. No lunch tray. No reason at all for anyone in this room to be told to enjoy a meal. I let out the smallest laugh first, the kind that slips out when embarrassment has already arrived but has not yet decided how large it wants to be. Then I said, "Oh no, wrong place for that." Which was true. She smiled then. A real smile this time, still quiet, still perfectly suited to the library. And in a voice so calm it almost felt like she had rescued many people before, she said, "I'll do my best." That answer changed everything. It did not erase the awkwardness. It just softened it. Suddenly, the moment was no longer something sharp and embarrassing. It was simply shared. A little misplaced sentence, met with a little kindness, and gently set down. So I laughed again, this time without trying to hide it. She laughed too, just a little. Not enough to disturb the room, but enough to make the whole thing feel lighter. Even the books on the desk seemed part of the joke now. I gathered my things a bit more carefully than before, as if moving slowly might help me recover some remaining dignity. But by then, it no longer mattered much. The worst part had already passed, and what was left was almost pleasant. When I turned to leave, the library looked exactly the same as it had a minute earlier. The child was still reading. The printer still hummed. Someone at the far table was still bent over notes. It was comforting, somehow, how little the world cared about one wrong sentence. Outside, the air felt cool and a little brighter than I expected. I stood there for a second with my book in my hand and the faintest smile still following me. That was the nice thing about small embarrassments. They can feel enormous inside the moment, then shrink almost at once. And maybe that is why they stay with us in such a gentle way. Not because they hurt. Not because they matter all that much. But because they remind us how strange and human it is to live inside language while still reaching for the right words. By the time I started walking home, I was already smiling again. Somewhere behind me, inside that quiet building, a librarian was probably still not eating lunch. And somehow that made the afternoon feel even softer.